Today, I'm going to show you how to make a folk pop song that sounds like this.
I remember swimming in the Fillmore Glen. I think I used to feel more than something about that icy water when it shook me to my core.
So this is my new song, Fillmore Glen, and it's very much inspired by that 2010 sort of era of folk pop, where it was full bands like Mumford Sons and Lumineers, as opposed to now what it looks like with solo artists. What I mean by this is that this production in particular was made to have a sort of full band sound with live instrumentation to make it feel like you were in the room. So today I'm going to break down exactly how I recorded all the different parts, how I produced them to get the song sounding like this. Real quick, if you're new to the channel, my name's Ryan Bieber. I'm now on year 3 of living and working in LA as a full-time musician, and I apologize for the state of this room you see me in. I have been successful enough at doing music to now afford a nicer apartment, but I just moved in and it is unfurnished. So I basically have the studio equivalent of this meme. But the truth of the matter is I basically recorded the song using such a limited equipment as this, and you can do it right here at home, which is the whole point of this channel. So if you like what you hear, drop a like, drop a subscribe, check out my original music. Anything you do helps support the channel and helps support me continue living my dream as a full-time musician. Now let's get into the video. Now the way I start most of my songs is by laying down a bass acoustic guitar track. This is great just for establishing tempo, a steady rhythm, and really fleshing out where you want the song to go dynamically and structurally. Personally, I like to record 2 rhythm tracks so that you can pan it hard left and hard right. That's 2 distinct takes, and it really contributes to a wider sound. And once I have that bass layer, I like to go in and basically find some dyads or triads, just shapes of the chord voicing that are a bit higher up on the guitar neck. And I'll do a sort of more plucking pattern to add some momentum, and it really just adds a sort of depth to just, a strumming acoustic guitar. This is always usually like my favorite part of recording because I get to try out all these different voicings and just how these licks can interplay with the main chord progression. Now this song ended up being very guitar heavy. I think in total there's like 40 guitar tracks. That's like 20 acoustic tracks and 20 electric tracks, which is granted probably over the top, but it was just a natural thing that came about. And keep in mind, again, I'm panning 1 take hard right and hard left, so you're instantly doubling every melodic decision you make, unless of course you want just one thing in one ear and a different line in the other. But case in point, I ended up with this huge acoustic stack, and I really love how the different voicings interplay with each other. After I laid down the acoustic tracks, it was time to break out the electric guitar. I was using a Squier Strat. Now typically I use Neural DSP's plugins for a lot of my songs, but there's this one free plugin called Amplitude that I specifically sought out for this song. It's a free plugin with a couple different amp sims, and it's pretty basic, but it has this really great clean tone. Specifically this like spring reverb sound. They have a specific spring reverb knob that you can dial. It has this very clangy, vibrant sound that I thought would lend itself well to this sort of natural sounding instrumentation without being like over the top, like atmospheric. I ended up doubling some of those acoustic dyad and triad licks on the electric, adding in a couple of different counter melodies and just also strumming the chords. And together with the electric and the acoustic, it ended up sounding like this. And once that's done, my favorite thing to do is break out the MIDI, banjo, and mandolin plugins. Now, of course, if you can play these instruments, that's even better. I don't have that luxury, and instead I use a free plugin by Labs and Spitfire Audio that has a great mandolin sound, and then I also use a banjo by Reflect Audio. And I kind of use this just to, add counter melodies, add a depth. Again, we want to create that folk band sounding feel to the song, and you can't have that without those traditional folk instruments. So whatever way you can, they're important to get into the song. The last sort of instrument section that I toyed around with was horns, which when I first think of it, like trumpets, trombones, that's not something I think of personally as like a folk instrument. But I was inspired by a fellow musician who I absolutely love. His name's Rev Ezra, and he makes incredible folk music. And some of my favorite songs by him have horns, and I had never heard that before. But then I started hearing it in larger artist songs like Oak Island by Zach Bryan, and I'm like, it adds a really interesting brassy timbre to the song that lends a sort of intensity. And the horns aren't necessarily in your face, they're definitely scaled back, but when you listen, you can really hear them as that sort of underbelly in the instrument. So now that we've discussed all the instruments that I used and recorded, I kind of want to talk about structure. I did something a bit different here where I started the song with an instrumental hook. It's sort of a melodic phrase that doesn't occur anywhere else in the song, but really serves to capture the listener's attention right off the bat. It sounds like this. Now, the interesting thing about having this sort of wall of sound is you're starting on a 10, which isn't really traditional. A lot of times, you want to build into the chorus and have it be a big moment. But the cool thing about this is when you have all the instruments playing at once, like instantly your attention is piqued as a listener. And then when you go into the verse, it's sort of like, okay, now we're settling in, and you can just kind of ride the flow of the song and then build back up into the chorus, of course. But this is something that I think is underutilized a lot. I think in modern pop songs, you just usually play the chord progression once or twice, do a 4-bar loop, just like a drum fill. But having a distinct melodic progression to start your song is a really cool way to stand out. The last thing I want to talk about is this very classic Lumineers folk pop sort of chanting that I do in this sort of post-chorus section towards the end of the song. It sounds like this. That's that classic Lumineers folk pop stomp chant sound. It gets the sense that, you're all in the bar sort of singing. And the way you do this is you just record a bunch of vocal stacks. The important thing I would say really is that you process them differently than your main vocals. Depending on the song, you might want them super reverby and washed, so they're kind of like background ambience, or other times you might want them super dry and stark to stand out to the main vocal. But the point here is to, get as many different sounds as you can. And what I mean by this is record from different lengths away from the mic, different sides of the mic. If you can, get other people in the recording, because the more voices you have and the different timbres, the more realistic it's going to sound in terms of creating that atmosphere that you're in a bar or you're in a saloon and you're all having a good time, hooting and hollering and partying. And while I had this sort of main vocal line going, I also layered in some harmonies. And then I doubled that with the acoustic guitar and the electric guitar. And when it comes to standout moments in your song and making something impactful, I think a great way to emphasize those moments is to have the other instruments mirror the vocal line. So in this case, I'm having the banjo and I'm having the guitars do that same vocal line. And together they're combining to make this beautiful sound. So there you have it. That's how I produced my new song, Fillmore Glen. If you like it, you can feel free to check it out. It's streaming wherever you get music. And please comment below if you found this video helpful, what kind of videos you'd like to see in the future in terms of different genres that I could show you how to produce. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I'm hoping for a great year in 2026. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these videos, of reflection videos, of covers. So stay tuned to this channel because I'm going to be posting a lot more consistently, even more so than last year. And I can't wait to see where this journey takes us. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you around next time.
I remember swimming in the Fillmore Glen. I think I used to feel more than something about that icy water when it shook me to my core. Late nights on the riverbed.